right, welcome everybody to God's Prepared Warrior Live. Thank you guys for being here tonight. Hopefully all of you can hear me. I know that all of our friends here that are coming in on TikTok, Neil, welcome in. The Freedom People, welcome in. Christopher, welcome in. Buddha, welcome in. Thank you guys for joining me. If you're new tonight, you are watching, my name is Fernando. You're watching God's Prepared Warrior channel. And this is a preparedness channel. And we talk all about physical preparedness, but not just physically, but also spiritually on this channel. And we talk about how those things kind of work together. 6-7, right? You guys caught me. So thank you for joining me tonight. Hopefully you guys over here on YouTube can hear me. So welcome in, guys. Salt Miss, welcome in tonight. Dana, welcome in. Scott Hummer, welcome in. Hudson Valley Prepping, welcome in, my friend. Guys, if you haven't followed Hudson Valley, you need to follow him. He's got a pretty awesome channel over there. OVP is here, Ohio Valley Prepping. Follow his channel too as well. And let's see who else. Salt Mist is in here. Dana is in here. Who else? I think that looks, yeah, so far. There's a few more in here, but I don't see them because they haven't subscribed yet. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel, guys. Hey, Cedric, welcome in, my brother. He says, hey, Chaplain, good to see you. It's good to see you, my brother. Scott Hummer is in the house. Welcome in, my brother Scott. And let's see who else is here. Man, you guys are talking it up. Okay, thank you guys for the 5x5. Good. You guys can hear me. Everybody over here on TikTok is coming in. Guys, don't forget to click the screen so we can get this tossed out further by sharing likes and things like that. Thank you guys for joining. All right, so there's a thing that I do at the very beginning of every live tonight or every Monday night live, and that is to share with you all the great things that you guys are doing on the channel. Remember, I always say that I am appreciative to all of you who are who come on here, who follow my channel, and you comment on all of my videos, and I'm so thankful to share with you what you guys are doing, because without you guys, I'm just a guy on here talking to myself. But you guys choose to come out here every Monday night and join the live stream and chat it up here on YouTube, and all of you over here on TikTok. And so I just want to share with you what the numbers look like, how we're growing. And that is what I'm about to do. So YouTube, we are at 1,219 subscribers on YouTube. We gained 2 over this week, which is pretty awesome. Over on TikTok, you guys over here, we are sitting at 4,229 followers on TikTok. And over the week, we gained 11 new followers over here. So guys, keep sharing the content, keep commenting, keep liking the videos. And over on Facebook, our Facebook page is growing, and it's growing pretty fast. I'm excited about that. We are now at 325 followers over on Facebook, which this week we gained 22 new followers. Over on the Facebook community page, we remain the same there at 51. And then over on X, we are at 1,042. We gained 3 new followers on X. And over on Instagram, we are at 1,296 followers there. We gained 1 new follower. So overall this week, all across the channels, we have gained 39 new community members, and that is so awesome. So thank you guys for subscribing. Thank you guys for following. Thank you guys for commenting. It means the world to me that you do that. And normally after our live tonight, I go into YouTube and just start responding to all the comments that came over the weekend. So If you might say, Fernando, well, you haven't commented on mine. It's because that's why. I'm super busy on the weekend with ministry stuff and with our business, our coffee business. And so, yeah, that takes up a lot of my time on the weekend and the times that we get to spend with family. And so, it's usually after tonight's live that I'll start answering that. And if I get really tired, I will wait till tomorrow morning and answer all of you guys. So that's what's happening. We have 39 new community members over the weekend or over this week. That was really, really awesome. So I'm excited about where this is going and what the Lord is doing, what you guys are doing. And I'm excited for a bunch of new things that hopefully will be coming out soon. I will share that as we get closer to those things. Just to kind of throw this out there too, I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I'm going to be meeting with a friend of mine of whose property we're going to be camping on in November. So I am hosting Bug Out Weekend Texas edition here in Texas on the weekend of Thanksgiving here in Kerrville, Texas. And I have a lot of friends from social media that say, Fernando, I want to come. I have some who have said we're coming, and I have a few that said we might. So the number has grown a little bit of who are coming. A lot of hopefully my family members are going to be able to attend to. It's going to be a great weekend. You know, I'm super excited to just get to everybody together and be able to help people learn how to live outside away from their home and show them how to do those things, right? I've grown up going camping when I was little, and I've always been an outdoors person. And you know, I go hunting, fishing all the time, and you know, it's important for me to be able to share that with other people, not for me to hold on to it, but for me to share. And so that's what I will do. You know, because I want to help people to be able to do that. So, so that's coming up in November. If you would like to be a part of that, if you live in Texas, South Central Texas, and you might say, Fernando, I want to join that, send me an email at godspreparedwarrior@gmail.com, and we will talk. I will talk to you about that. Ohio Valley Prepping says Texas road trip. He's one of the ones that said we are coming down for Bug Out Weekend in Texas. So I'm excited. I can't wait for that day. It's going to be super fun. I have a surprise for everybody that comes that weekend too. So OVP already knows. I already talked to him about it. But yeah, so, and then we have some other friends. Vision Preparedness has some things that he's going to send down for us. And so that's going to be super cool. I'm excited about that. I need to get with him on that. And so, yeah, so I have a meeting coming up with the landowner who is going to allow us to camp that weekend in November, and it's going to be super fun. So if you're coming, bring your blankets. It's going to be cold. I know, because this is the time that I go camping every year, because I don't go camping in the summer in Texas because I'm not baking. So yeah, I'm not going to fry. I'm just saying. But I will go in the wintertime. I'll take a heater with me, and you know, if it gets unbearable, but I've never really had to use it. So it's going to be fun. Hey, Shelly, welcome in. It's good to see you, my sister. Thank you for stopping in. All right, so let's get to the news. I always share the news with all of you. This is why I tell all of my friends over here on TikTok, you guys got to come over to YouTube so that you guys can follow along here. But if you guys want to follow along with the news that I'm going to share with you tonight, all of the links are in the description here on YouTube to this live feed. And you can click along those links if you want to follow along. But the first one I'm going to talk about tonight for us to stay vigilant to is these wildfires that are happening right now all over the United States, and especially the ones up north in Canada. But specifically, this is coming from AP News. Washington State fires destroy hundreds of buildings and force Spokane area residents to evacuate. I'm going to read a little bit here. It says some residents returned to devastated neighborhoods in eastern Washington state to find their homes leveled by wildfires that erupted across parched landscape over the weekend, covering yards in charred debris. And some cases, only the chimneys were left standing. The fires in and around Spokane, the United States' second largest city, were among the most destructive in state history. About 700 buildings have been destroyed, and that number is expected to climb. And some 67,000 people were under evacuation orders because cause was under investigation. The cause was under investigation. So I want you guys to look at this. This is something that we should see, and it should move in us to pray for them, to pray for these families that are displaced, to think about them when we say our prayers, and that we ask God to continue to be with these folks and families. It's really, I think what I don't think it was last weekend, maybe it was, but I talked about or last Monday, I think I talked about, what if, are you ready, right? Because Mike Tango Whiskey shared a video about a lady that he knew that got the knock at the door at 3 a.m, and the law enforcement were telling them to evacuate because the fire was coming closer. And so he talked about that, and it kind of ruminated in my brain a little bit of, at 3 o'clock in the morning, what is that knock like? What happens to you? You're groggy. You're probably not at all your full senses because you're immediately woken by the banging on the door, and now they're telling you need to get out. You need to get out, get a few things, and you need to get out. Are you ready for that kind of a scenario? So, I'm continuing to think about that as I continue to read and hear these stories that are happening over these wildfires in Washington State. So Shelly says, I'm in Idaho, and we have lots of smoke from the Washington and Oregon fires, and one west of us in Idaho blowing in. Wow. Well, I'm going to definitely keep you in prayer, Shelly, because that's the air quality, I'm pretty sure, is not good where you are. Yeah. I mean, when you're woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's usually not for a good thing, right? Yeah. So let's keep these folks in prayer. I think that's an important story that I saw today, and I thought I would share with you guys. It's especially good for us to read that story, feel a certain way for these folks that have been displaced, and then also to even think for ourselves, if that was my family, what would I do? How would I prepare for that thing, right? And so it kind of puts us in a thinking mode of what we should do. All right, the next one is coming from Financial Times. It says Trump claims Iran talks underway despite denial from Tehran. So, I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'm kind of done with the up and down of what's happening over in Iran. I truly believe that it is a huge front, and a lot of people are making money by them saying we're going to blow them up, and then no, you know what, we're going to hold off, and then the next week we're going to blow them up, and then no, we're going to hold off. No, yeah, somebody's making lots of money, and the more that little wheel can turn, the more money those people are making. So you're probably sick of hearing it, but it's still something to watch, because either way, if if it goes full scale, you know, it's something we need to pay attention to be ready and prepared. And then if it finally cuts out, what does that really look like? And you know, how is it going to work? So watch for that. I think that's important for us to pay attention to. I know that if you're like me, you're kind of tired and you're like sick and tired of hearing about it, but I still kind of keep it in the back, just so that I kind of know what's happening, and you know, I can adjust from there, right? If I need to, over here where we live, right? We have to take the news with a grain of salt. Yes, you are very right, Dana. We have to, because we can't take it for literal anymore, because we're being lied to, right? That's just what it is. We're being lied to. And you know, it's almost like we have to become our own newscaster, right? We have to do the research. We have to make sure everything is on the up and up. And at the same time, if you're like me, you know, I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm always asking myself, would I be ready for that thing? Would I do that thing? Right. So yeah. So keep that in, keep watch on that. Not too tremendously, but because it'll drive you nuts. We're there, we're not there. We're going to blow them up. We're not going to blow them up, that kind of a thing. So stay vigilant to that. All right. So the next one is coming from the Texas Tribune. And this one's an important one, because I'm actually planning to do a drive just in my vicinity here, and show you all of the data centers that are popping up right here where I live. And there are several of them. So I plan to kind of do an impromptu video of just a drive-by of these data centers, so that you can see why everyone is in an uproar of them drawing on the grid, of them drawing of all the water to cool them down, and the massive footprint that they have. And so I was going to get the number, but I didn't. But there are several, many data centers here where I live. And so I'm going to be putting that video out hopefully by the end of this week. I have some free time towards the end, and I'm gonna involve my wife, and she's gonna drive me around while I talk. So look out for that video. But this is coming from the Texas Tribune. It says data center approvals in Texas halted until audits completed, Governor Abbott says. On Monday, the governor ordered the Public Utility Commission of Texas and the Electric Reliability Council of Texas to audit all data centers wanting to connect to the state's power grid. So amid the growing public backlash, here's what it's saying, to the rapid build out of the data centers across Texas. And this is true, because right here where I live, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all together on the same road. And the massive electricity cables and structure that connects them is massive. And so I can't wait so you can see what I'm seeing and how much electricity these things are drawing, just by the perplexity of what, you know, the wires that are connecting to the building. For example, you have a home, right? And from the street, there's a pole and there's a line that connects to your house, or unless it goes underground. I think here it goes underground. But there is wire from the main that connects from the main to your house. And when you look at these data centers, they're huge electrical structures that are just massive. And so I also want to show you the path of these massive structures and where they are in the green lens of the city where I live. And so you'll know what I'm talking about when I show you those parts there. Why can't we have a governor like Texas and Florida? Okay, so Yes, I am glad that Greg Abbott is doing that, but I'm going to tell you, you guys got to Google it. Somebody Google it. How many data centers are in Texas? That means that these data centers are already up and running, that he is allowed to come in. There are a lot of them. I think it's over 200. I think. Don't quote me. Somebody search that and put it in the chat. Because Texas has a large amount of data centers. There's a few that are being built, and so I don't know because of this if it stopped, but it looks like because of the backlash, not because Greg Abbott has a heart, but there is a huge backlash here in Texas because Texas was chosen to have all of these data centers. There you go. Ohio Valley Prepping says there are over 250. Oh, in Ohio. But what about Texas? I think we're probably somewhere around that. OVP. Salt Miss says there are 335. Okay, so I'm wrong by 100, right? So we have 335 here in Texas, and so that's a lot, guys. And we already, our electrical system, not too long ago when Snowvid happened, it couldn't even it couldn't support itself because of the snow. And so since then there has been upgrades to our electrical system here in Texas, but they're still telling us to regulate how much energy we use, to not use it is freaking hot here in Texas. And guess what? If you have an air conditioner, you're going to be running that thing. Because I'm telling you, on yesterday, I was riding my motorcycle. We were doing ministry work with the ministry guys. And so I went to church on my motorcycle. And let me tell you, I passed the bank and I looked at the sign and it said it's 99 degrees at 11 o'clock in the morning. And so, I'm like, wow, man, if it's 99 degrees, can you imagine what the feel like temperature is? It was insanely hot yesterday. So yeah, I unfortunately was succumbed by the heat. Texas is now starting to look at those data centers because we're being overrun by them, and they're just a nuisance, I think. This next one is coming also from the Texas Tribune. It's also about the flock cameras. It says flock license plate cameras are surging in Texas. So this is another thing that's happening in the little town before the word flock camera came out, which isn't too long ago, right? In the little town where I work, when I'm going to the grocery store, the new grocery store that opened up that's really close that I go to all the time, there popped up these two poles with cameras on them and a solar panel. And I was asking everybody that I knew were there in the town, like, what are these two cameras doing here and what are they for? And my thought was because just maybe about 100 feet away, they built a new cell phone tower there. And I thought, well, maybe because the cell phone tower is a infrastructure thing, maybe they put cameras in case somebody wanted to climb it or, somebody wanted to sabotage it or whatever. And so that was my thought until everybody that I follow started coming out talking about flock cameras, and it's the same camera that they were showing in their picture. And so, yeah, they are everywhere. They're down actually in my son's neighborhood, not too far from here. They're popping up, and Big Brother is watching. His OVP says they are not licensed. They are not. So these flock license plate cameras are surging in Texas. So is an anti-surveillance backlash. So there's a lot of backlash coming out because there has come out in the news that police officers have been using these cameras for their private use to follow people, to follow women, and so there's a huge backlash. There was a video I was watching on the way to work. Well, I was listening to on the way to work this morning, and I think it's I can't remember his name, but anyway, he was talking about that and how they're illegal, and so people are actually fighting against them, and so Texas is having a surge of these flock cameras popping up. Now, I'm going to tell you, they're not always looking the same. There are speed limit signs that actually have a camera inside or on the sign that you can probably hardly see because it's probably looks like maybe the screw that holds the speed limit sign on the pole. And so I've heard that those speed limit signs also have cameras too as well. So I don't know what you guys think about that, but flock cameras are coming up. OVP says the great eye is always watching. That is true, my friend. That is true. Big time. And Scott Humber says we have someone in our area putting signs under the flock cameras warning people of illegal surveillance. Oh, yeah, that's pretty neat. There's a lot of people here in Texas that are hitting them with their cars. There was a guy that was caught that was sawing the sign down. He was sawing the pole down, and he got arrested for that. I mean, people are hitting them with their car. It's just insane. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. Dennis says, I wonder if window film to see one way is legal for cars. Well, I'll be honest with you. In Texas, there is a limit to the film on your windows because it has to be a certain limit. If policemen can't see in, they'll stop you, they'll ticket you, they'll put a little meter on your window to read to see if the film on your window is not against the law. So there are some that are dark tinted, right? Dark. Those are okay in the back, but not for the driver and the passenger, simply because they still got to see you. It's weird here in Texas. My stepson kept getting stopped because he has dark window film on his windows, and they keep stopping him for that. So it just depends. Saw Miss, it says it's the same in Maine. Yeah, it's pretty crazy over here. Welcome in, my brother Rick. Thank you for joining me tonight. That's happening here in Texas through the Texas Tribune. So check that out. The next one is coming from Fox News. It says Trump to open direct line with military families in ground up readiness push. Okay, so when I read this as something is coming. Okay. I'm going to read it to you again. If you haven't clicked on it, click on it because I want you to see. And you tell me if they're getting ready for something or not. But it says Trump to open direct line with military families in ground up readiness push, right? It says the commission, it says President Donald Trump is expected to sign an executive order. He signed it today, creating a new White House commission aimed at putting military families at the heart of the military readiness. So as the military prepares, so will the family of those enlisted prepare. That's what I'm reading from this. And so this is one of those things that I say we have to be vigilant, right? Because we're going to see things, but they're not going to say it out loud. that something is going to happen. But this, to me, is a step in the right direction, because it's, where in the past it's been, we have our soldiers, they're going to go out, they're going to, go do, they're going to go fight battles and wars for America. And some of them will come home and some of them won't, right? But it sounds like to me that they are readying the families for that kind of a thing. But at the same time, it sounds like they're readying the families when they ready the soldiers to go out. So that's how I'm taking that. I could be wrong, but I think it's important to pay attention, because when things start happening like that, to me, it sounds like we're getting this group ready and everybody else is just going to kind of hear it after the fact. But if we're vigilant, like we are, we're going to be able to see those kinds of things. Let's see. OVP says, I'm prepping to go 100% offline, zero technology. Sorry, but that'll mean no more YouTube. That is correct. I am doing the same thing. Is it here? Yes. Okay. I'm going to be doing a video on this soon. I'm just trying to figure out still, but these are two USB storage devices, right? This one is, I don't know if you guys can see that. It's upside down. This is a terabyte size. So this holds a terabyte of information. And I think this one is maybe like a 30, I don't know. It's maybe 8 gigs or somewhere around there. But this is my computer, my offline computer, when I have to go offline. I have information on here that any prepper would need when there is no more internet, when there is no more anything. And if you are still able to, power up your laptop, which my plan is to do that, I have information stored here that I can use even after that. Lord willing, there's not a EMP and it kills my computer, because then we're upstream without a paddle, right? So I am doing the same, OVP. All right, next one is coming out from Syracuse. It says a 14-year-old girl was killed when gunshots were fired into a crowd after a festival in Rochester. This is just another story that I saw of, Fernando, what would you do if you were in the middle of a crowd and this craziness erupted? What would you do? And I don't know if you guys heard about this, but it was a crazy thing, and people were hurt, and it was just a bad thing. So keep that family in prayer, who have lost that 14-year-old girl who was killed in that festival. That's important for us to pray for that family. All right, here is the last one. The last one is coming from The Guardian. It says, the man who returned fire at the In-N-Out gunman had done firearm training after 2021 mass shooting. So it says here, a healthcare worker returning fire on a 24-year-old gunman who killed 3 people and wounded several others. An In-N-Out burger in Twin Falls, Idaho. He said it was his impulse to confront the attacker, and it was automatic and mechanical. And so the description from the 35-year-old Jordan Salinas came in an interview with the Idaho Statesman that was published on Sunday, providing detailed account of actions that police credited with limiting the number of victims in the attack the day earlier. It says Salinas said that he was headed out for a horseback riding date with his girlfriend when they stopped at the burger restaurant for lunch at about 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. Salinas saw people fleeing, and he heard the pop, pop, pop of gunfire. And according to what he told the statesman. He said that he ran toward the sound in an automatic and mechanical response drawing from a shoulder hosted and a semi-automatic pistol with a suppressor affixed to its barrel. Selena said that he had been training with firearms seriously since a deadly shooting at a mall in Boise, Idaho, about a 2.5 hour drive from Twins Falls, who left 2 people unalived and 4 wounded. So I'm using this one to kick off our talk tonight, because I think it was a good thing that this man, or this young man, has been practicing with his preps. And so tonight, moving into our topic for tonight, our segment, our lesson for tonight is titled, Could It Have Been You? Right? So I want to talk to you tonight about, and I want to begin with a question. And the question is really simple. What if it had been you? Let's talk about that in the comments. What if you were that young man and you were going to In-N-Out? I've never eaten at In-N-Out, so I don't know. And you were getting a burger. It was you and your wife, you and your girlfriend, you and a family member, and all of a sudden you heard the pop noises that you know all too well and are familiar with. That is gunfire. And what would you do? What if it had been you there, right? That's the question that I want you guys to kind of talk about there in the chat. What if you had been just sitting there in the restaurant, even inside the restaurant, and you were eating lunch, you were with your spouse, you were with your grandchildren, would you have been ready, right? This weekend, this tragedy happened, and there's been a lot of talk about the people who were unalived. And I think I heard there was a couple that were at the electric pump where you plug your electric car into, and I think they were traveling, and they were coming from visiting family, and they were caught in the crossfire, right? And so, this leaves, people I think there was 3 who were killed, and many others who were wounded, right? But I want us to remember something. These were real people, right, that were caught. They were real husbands. They were real wives. They were real parents. They were real children. Tonight, I think that it's important for us to think about those who lost their lives and really and truly pray for their family, right? Because their family is now facing this tragedy of this senseless person. And so I think it's important that as God's prepared warriors, we keep these families in prayer. So I would encourage you guys to do that and keep them in prayer. Because we, as Christians, as God's prepared warriors, we never become numb to the people who are hurting, to the people that are suffering. This is why I talked tonight about those people who are going through the wildfires, for us to keep them in prayer, because they're going through a lot. They're losing a lot, right? And so it's important for us to not ever become numb to seeing that our response should be that of prayer. And so let's keep that in mind. But as God's prepared warriors, we should also ask this very important question. If something like this happened where I was, would I be ready? Would you be ready? That's the question I have for you tonight. It's hard to say, right, what your response would be, but I know what my response would be the same thing, because I would want to assist in any way that I can. And if I am ready with the tools that I have, then I need to spring into action and assist when I can, right? And so, not because we live in fear, but because we desire to protect those that God has entrusted to our care. And I think that's just an important thing to think about, right? So, on this topic here, I think there are a few things topics that I should hit, that are very important for us. And if you know me in all true fashion, you already know that my number one is going to be situational awareness, because you can ask my wife. I am my head is on a swivel wherever we go. There's a particular way that I sit down wherever we go. There's a particular thing that I do when I walk into a building. I scan, look for exits. Even when we were on vacation at the resort that we stayed at, I was doing that same thing. And we were on the third floor, and I even went to the point to open the balcony door to see if I needed to leave out this balcony, how difficult would that be? And it was pretty high, so that would be my last resort. But it had to be done. It would have to be done. But yeah, I don't know if any of you think that way, but I do. Situational awareness is important to me. Every time we enter a building, a grocery store, your church, a movie theater, a public place, do you really pay attention, right? It's important to pay attention. I see too many people today who are buried in their phone and really not paying attention to what's happening around them. And it's important to notice, right? Notice where the exits are. Notice where, which doors are available to utilize, right? If there's a sound and it's over here by these doors, you don't want to exit those doors. You want to exit the other doors, right? Situational awareness is really, really important. And, I'm not asking you to become paranoid. I'm just asking you to become observant, right? And there's a difference. As God's prepared warriors, we notice things. That's how I do it, right? I notice things, right? We're not looking for danger. At least some of us aren't, right? I'm not looking for danger around every corner, right? But I'm vigilant to what's happening. I know that when I get off my car, I'm going to look around. I'm going to scan the area. The keys are still going to be in between my fingers, right? How I'm going to hold my keys in case I got to throw a punch, and then I'll put them away, right? Once I know that the area is secure and I can continue walking from my car to the store to wherever, right? It's important, situational awareness, because you just never know when it's going to happen until it happens, right? And so it's important for us to be to know what's happening, right? Because we refuse to be oblivious to what's happening around us, right? One simple habit that we can make, and it will make a huge difference, is when we walk into the building, just take 5 minutes, right, to look around. I'm not telling you to walk every room, or hey, grab somebody. Hey, can you tell me where the exits are here? No, I'm not asking you to do that. You be observant. Just look around. Know where the exits are, right? It's really simple. Just like some of us might go into a place and we're like, where's the bathroom, right? Asking ourselves where's the exit should be one of those questions, or answer. Yeah, one of those questions we ask ourselves, right? Know your surroundings. That's important. And that costs nothing, but it just may become priceless, right? So situational awareness is an important thing for us. I think the next thing is to have a family plan, right? If something was to happen with this, like this, where would we go? Where would we hide? Does it look like you have somebody with you, your wife, or maybe your brother or sister or whatever, and you're like, here, take the kids, go over there, go back over there, and you're the one that's going to respond. You got to have a plan, because I think that if you have your family with you, it's more important that you take care of them before you do anything else, right? You don't have to be the hero, but to your family, right? It's important for you to talk with your family. Where are we going to meet? If something happens, where do we go? Who grabs the kids? Who calls 911? And what happens if we get separated? How do we get back together? That's an important thing, right? And I really think that most families don't ever really talk about that, or have conversations about that, right? And as us, as prepared warriors, it's important that we do that, right? Because we're expecting something terrible, but what if it doesn't happen? At least you're prepared, right? So think ahead, plan ahead. The next lesson I think we can learn from this is that seconds really matter, right? One thing emergencies teach us is that over time, or over and over again, that help may not arrive immediately, right? And it's going to take people like this young man to kind of step in until that help arrives, right? Police officers do an incredible job. EMS personnel, they do an incredible job. Firefighters, they do a great job, right? But they have to get there first. Does that make sense? They have to kind of get there first. And it's important to understand that, right? The first few moments of an emergency often just kind of belong to the people that are already there. It belongs to the people that are there, right? Just like for this young man, the emergency belonged to him for that moment until help arrived, right? And that's why preparedness matters. This is why I'm here day after day, video after video, Monday night after Monday night of live streaming, right? And this is why I'm here talking all the time about situational awareness, about making a plan, practicing with your preps, because this is what this young man did. He's on I'm going to link him tonight after the live. I'm going to link him in the description of this video. I went to his YouTube channel and I followed him today. And I didn't look at the number of people that have liked his channel and subscribed to it, but I did look at some of the comments of that people were saying, boy, your channel is about to blow up. And so I don't think he knows that. His videos are like maybe 30 or 40 seconds long of him practicing with his boomsticks. And when I was watching that, I'm like, this is why he responded the way he did, because he's been practicing with his preps. And I've been saying that a lot on this channel. It's important. Yeah, it's important to gather all these things, but it's more important to take those things and practice with them, right? If you're going to buy a radio, practice with your radio. If you're gonna buy a ham radio, get your license. Don't just not get your license. Say, oh no, I'm just gonna listen in. No, get your license, because now you're gonna be able to practice on that radio. If you don't want to take the test for a ham license, get a GMRS license. All you got to do is fill out the FCC paperwork for it. It takes maybe an hour, because it's the government, just to maneuver through their website. But anyway, in a day or two, you get your license back, and you only pay $35 for it, and you can be on all the frequencies on GMRS. That's where I am. And I have joined the community, and we meet every Tuesday night on the radio, and we meet up once a month together. I've even hosted these guys at our coffee shop. And so it's important that we practice with our preps. So I'll link his YouTube channel if you haven't found it already. If somebody already followed it, you can throw it up in the chat here, but follow him, because he was an inspiration. When I saw the first video, I'm like, this guy's doing it. He's doing it. And so, we should practice with our preps. seconds matter, right? Here's the next lesson out of that I think we can learn from, and it's practicing with your preps. This is the lesson, right? That I really want to emphasize tonight, because authorities have reported that an off-duty law enforcement officer and this young man, right, confronted the shooter. And think about that. Their response didn't happen because they simply owned equipment. It happened because they are training with their equipment, and they were prepared to act. I love the way he talks about he responded um, mechanically. And I can't remember the other word, but it was like it was ingrained in his nature to respond when he overheard those shots, right? Because at that moment he knew that there was a bad actor and he needed to move, and that's what he did, right? And so as God's prepared warriors, our preps are only as valuable, and I've said this many times on the channel. Our preps are only as valuable as our ability to use them, right? You may own a firearm, you may own a trauma kit, you may own a fire extinguisher or a ham radio, a generator, a bug out bag, emergency food, water filters, water, to sustain you. But if you've never practiced with your preps, then your equipment may not help you when the pressure is on. Owning the gear is not preparedness. Training is preparedness, and that is the important thing. Scott Hummer, what did Scott say? Scott says, let's see, you guys are just chatting it all up in here. Let's see, Dana says, I believe that when it really goes south, our first responders will take care of their own. Yes, I believe that too. Many politicians or dumb public have not appreciated them and have been very disrespectful. Yeah, that's right. And when they're not going to be there, they're not going to be there. Scott says, to Dana, I agree and can't fault them for that. That is true. Very true. Thank you guys for sharing that. So yeah, it's important for us to practice with our preps, right? Because training is preparedness. If you carry a firearm, practice with it, know how to use it safely, right? And understand the laws in your state. Ingrain that even in your mind, because here in Texas, we have castle law, we have all that stuff. We have constitutional carry, we have all of that. But even if you use your firearm here in Texas, you're going to go to jail until all of that is investigated. And so, that's what it is. Learn the laws where you are. That's important. If you own a trauma kit, learn how to use it. Take a stop the bleed class, right? And maybe it's you practicing how to apply a tourniquet. That's always important, guys, to practice with your preps. If you own radios, practice communicating. If you have a bug out plan, actually leave your house and walk through it. What does it look like, right? Time yourselves from point A to your meetup point, right? Point A to point C. If point B is unavailable, even practice that, right? Find the weak spots in your plan and fix them. I think that's important for God's prepared warriors, because we don't wait until the emergency. We practice with our preps, right? And lesson 5 here is important too as well. Think before you need to, right? Think before you need to. One of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself is actually thinking through difficult scenarios before they happen. So here I had a conversation with one of my coworkers today because we are working with flood relief with people in the hill country still, and so I was talking with a coworker today, and she was telling me that she got to go see the devastation and work with some of the teams that were out there. And she was telling me, she said, Fernando, I can't believe this lady. She was maybe 4 feet tall, and she almost drowned in the floods that came through this year. And she said, I don't know how she made it. And I said, well, let me ask you this question. Because this is how Fernando thinks, right? I asked her, I said, what would you do if you were in her shoes? And she said, well, Fernando, I'm a great swimmer. Okay. You're a great swimmer. Okay. Let's say this happens in the middle of the night. Are you going to wake up a great swimmer, or is everything going to be in shock for you? And she's like, you know what? Now that you put it that way, I'm probably going to be in shock. And I'm like, 100%. I said, so in her situation, if you were there and she almost drowned inside her house, right? She had to get out. And I said, if you were in her house, what would you do? And she said, you know what? I don't know what I would do. I said, well, let me tell you what I would do, because I've thought through this process myself from the last year's flooding efforts that we helped with last year with our nonprofit. And so I said, when we're talking about rivers are flowing one way. And if your house is in line with that river that's coming, you want to step out in front of your house. Why? Because your house is going to be the thing that blocks the raging water from taking you away. I said, I would be so close to that front of the house because all the water's coming from the back that way. And I would float up with the water as the water rose. I would hop onto my roof. And she's like, oh, I've never would have thought of that. And I go, most people don't, because they haven't thought through the process. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. Think before you need to, right? Take these days that, everything's nice. It's okay. Nothing's happening in the world. It's just hot outside if you live in Texas. But think through possibilities. Think through things that would happen and what would you do in those scenarios. And so that is just something that has been ingrained in me since my correctional officer days. And so, we had the what if game that we would play when we would meet together. And what if this situation happened? What would you do? And we would talk through that process. And so that's kind of been ingrained in my mind for so long when I was in corrections. All right. So real quick, I'm going to go through the spiritual lesson before we end tonight. Psalms 46:1 says that God is our refuge and strength and an ever-present help in trouble. And I want you to notice what this verse doesn't say. And it's funny, I was sharing this verse yesterday with our ministry, our motorcycle ministry. It doesn't say that trouble will never come. It says that God is present when trouble comes. And that is the hope that we have as believers, right? Our confidence is not found in our equipment. Our confidence is not found, in our abilities. Our confidence is found in Christ. And so, but trusting God doesn't mean that you're ignoring wisdom, right? Throughout Scripture, God's people prepared, and faith and preparation have always gone together. And that's why I thought when I started this channel that, all of the stuff that I was hearing didn't bring these two ideas together. And that's why it's so important for us not to just be physically prepared, but to be spiritually prepared, to be mentally prepared, so that when situations like this happen, our preparedness, our practice with our preps, our no fear, but we're trusting God. The things that we've walked through, that we thought about, we will get to move in that space, just like this young man did, right? And how he described how mechanically He moved into action because he was practicing um, with his tools. And so, we are trusting God, and He is the one that's going to walk us through all of that, with ourselves and with our families. So tonight, I want to ask you guys this closing question, and I want to challenge you. If I had been sitting in that restaurant, right? This is a question. If you were sitting in that restaurant, um, would you have been prepared? And I want you guys to think about that tonight, and utilize that question to fix the gaps in your preps. Maybe you haven't been practicing with your preps. Maybe it's time to start practicing, because like I say, I don't tell you this out of fear. I tell you this so that you're vigilant and you're prepared, right? If this was you, what would you do? Not just physically, um, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but, you know, would your family know what to do, right? Have you practiced your plan? Have you trained with your equipment? And would you remain calm in that situation? Would you know what to do? And, the other day, we went to go eat somewhere, and I kind of pulled a fast one on my wife. And I said, love, if somebody came in through that door over there, guns blazing, what would we do? And she told me we would go out that door over there that says exit. So she's learning, right? She's been listening to me. And so, I want you to be able to do that thing, right, with your family. Jennifer, welcome in. Welcome in, Miha. Papa Ferd, it's me, Elliot. I just wanted to say good night. Good night, Miho. I love you. Tell Grandma I said good night too. Love you guys. Elliot, I love you, and Julie, and Grandma loves you too. So those are my grandkids. They're listening in. See, teach them while they're young. Good night. Y'all have a good night. Get some rest. So yeah, it's important. I want to challenge you guys. Bring your family into that. Help them to be prepared, and help them to be like you, not afraid, not worried, not living in fear, but walking in wisdom. And so, bring your family into it, right? And ask yourself those questions and bring them in, right? It's important. Every tragedy teaches us something, right? The question is, will we learn from it? Will we understand? Will we take the time to look at that and pray for the families that are affected, and, and thank the heroes that helped, right? So important. Or will we just simply move on to the next headline? But as God's prepared warriors, I think we honor those who suffered by learning the lessons that just may one day protect our own families, right? So let's become people who are watchful. Let's become people who are wise, who are well trained, who are compassionate towards others, who are grounded in Christ, and who are always prepared. Because remember, your preparedness tool isn't your bug out bag. It isn't your firearm. It's not your generator. Um, it is a heart that trusts God, and a mind that thinks ahead, and the willingness to faithfully prepare for whatever tomorrow may bring. So, guys, stay faithful to the Lord, and as I always say, stay vigilant and stay prepared. Guys, you're welcome. It says, thank you, Fernando. Good night, guys. Have a good night. I am praying for all of you guys. You guys over here who hung with me, I think there's one. Thank you for hanging with me tonight, and hope to see you on the next Monday Night Live. God bless. Praying for all of you.